Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that was created for a aspiring musician that was already relatively successful but wanted to really elevate their career and felt that it was a lot of work, a lot of things to do in order to be able to achieve the level that she wanted to achieve. So what you're going to hear in this hypnosis session is a form of timeline hypnosis that utilizes ideas that relate to the fourth dimension. You'll hear that in a metaphor that links to something called a tesseract. A tesseract is a four-dimensional version of a cube. Obviously, a cube is a three-dimensional. A tesseract is a four-dimensional representation of a cube. And it's difficult because we live in a three-dimensional world to entertain the idea of the fourth dimension. So hopefully that metaphor works to have an idea that in the fourth dimension, time is something that you can travel in the same way that you can in distance. So a two-dimensional being would have difficulty fathoming the idea of walking in a three-dimensional world. And as living in the three dimensions that we do, it's difficult to entertain the idea of a fourth dimension. But in the fourth dimension, time doesn't really exist in the same way that it does in a linear structure. So it utilizes that idea of a tesseract in the fourth dimension to enable her to experience a future version of herself where she's already achieved everything that she wanted to achieve. She has the success, she has the credibility, she has the balance in life, but also that she's able then to look back at her life and figure out all the different things that she was doing in the past that led to that moment. And it really comes down to the idea of strategy and tactics. The way I think about strategy is I think about going forward in time and then looking backwards. And then that gives you the broad plan as to what your outcome is, what your vision is, and what's necessary to get there. Whereas tactics are the day-to-day things that you do in order to make progress. And there's a metaphor that you'll hear about riding a wave. And that's because tactical activity has to be temporary and it has to take advantage of the nuanced situation that you're in that moment. So like surfing a wave, you can't know where that wave is going to go. You have to look for the patterns. And then if there's an opportunity to ride that wave, that's great. But even if you can't, you just know that there's going to be another wave, not too far behind. So there's lots going on in this hypnosis session, and I think it will be useful for anyone that wants to be successful, wants to gravitate towards a desirable future, but doesn't really know how to get there. I think a lot of people are crippled by perfectionism, that they're always second guessing whether or not they're doing the right thing. Whereas in this hypnosis session, it facilitates and rewards the idea that nobody really knows for sure what's going to work, and therefore you need many irons in the fire. You need many different approaches, and therefore only one of those approaches sometimes is necessary to achieve certain results. And this is how I think about wealth. For example, I have various wealth strategies, and I don't know which of my wealth strategies is going to catch a tide and kind of ride on a particular trend or narrative that would create, exponential wealth. That's why I invest in property, I invest in shares, I invest in crypto, I invest in commercial real estate, all various things. So if just one of those works, then it's very effective. So like I say, lots going on in this, but hopefully will be very useful for you. You won't be surprised to hear that obviously this is tailored to a musician being very successful as a musician, therefore might not be 100% relevant for you. But if you like the idea of timeline therapy, perhaps linked to your specific goals and dreams, then there will be a link in the show notes that you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call with me, with no obligation to work with me, just to explore what that would be like. But for now, though, worth finding a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just get a sense that tension is leaving your body. And I want you to scan your body, almost like the radar in an air traffic control room. But you're not scanning for aeroplanes. You're scanning for tension or clues of tension around your body. Perhaps you can imagine that green line on a dashboard going around in a circle, and start to notice whether it's at the top of your head, around your neck or your shoulders or your jaw, perhaps where tension is for you. As you breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation, and you start to notice clues of tension, just accept that when you identify it, you can release it. And as you release that tension, feel it leaving your body in your outward breath. Meaning, just by breathing in and breathing out and scanning your body from head to toe, you can become deeper and deeper relaxed. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, I want you to think about dimensions. I want you to get a sense that a straight line is one dimension. And a one-dimensional line can't fathom anything else outside of that single line. So even a two-dimensional shape, like a triangle or a square, would be impossible to comprehend from a one-dimensional line. And then hold an image in your mind of a two-dimensional shape. Any two-dimensional shape, a circle, a square, any shape at all. And imagine that if you were that shape, the idea of a three-dimensional object would be impossible to understand. And then imagine the three-dimensional version of your two-dimensional shape. And then I want you to get a sense that while this three-dimensional object is stationary, the idea that it could exist at a different point in time is also incomprehensible. And then I want you to think of you as a three-dimensional being, able to think about the past and think about the future, but not exist in the past or the future. If a two-dimensional square is a square, and a three-dimensional square is a cube, a four-dimensional cube is a tesseract. And I want you to entertain the idea of something being able to exist at different points in time. And as you hold that thought of a 4-dimensional cube, I want you to imagine that you can visit a future version of yourself. That a 4-dimensional version of you can exist at any point in time. Imagine the Tesseract version of yourself. And I want you to imagine a point in the future where you're just about to go on stage at a festival. As you breathe in and breathe out, breathe the same way you would do if you were about to perform to a big audience with music that they are already familiar with. They already know your name. Many in the audience are here just to hear you. Breathe how you would breathe, think how you would think, and then imagine walking out on that stage. You can see the thousands of people in front of you. Notice how calm you are, how good it feels. In this moment, your music is your energy, connecting with thousands of souls whose emotional state will change based on your energy, your music. I want you to imagine here in this 4-dimensional world, time doesn't exist. A year can be a second, and a second can be a lifetime. And imagine you've now completed that set. You've done your encore. And you leave that stage with a sense of gratitude, but also a sense of déjà vu, like you've been here before. And you've said to yourself many times before leading up to here that if you ever performed in this venue to this audience, you would treat yourself by going to a lagoon with thermal springs. And I want you to imagine it's night. There's no light pollution here in this place. You can see the stars, and I want you to imagine seeing the northern lights, the aurora. See the greens and the blues as you imagine bathing in warm thermal springs, as you reflect on giving that performance, a performance you're proud of. And as you look up and see the northern lights, you see the aurora, and you feel relaxed in those thermal waters. I want you to reflect on all those things that you did to arrive at this location in the future. As you think backwards through time, you realize that you had no idea of knowing what would lead you to this place, which is why you had to try many different things. And I want you to notice the energy required to produce all those things without knowing which was worthy of your time and what was speculative. Required an attitude of acceptance. You didn't have to preempt what would happen with all those things. The desire was to create. And I want you to think back to some of the greatest artists. They released themselves from worrying what would happen with the things that they produced. some of the most productive artists, the Picassos, the Dalis, didn't have strings attached to what would happen with their art when they created it, but simply turned their ideas and their vision into something and then released themselves from whatever the ripple effect of that creation would be. So as you reflect on what led you to this point where you're living your dream, this point in time where you're working with some of the world's most high-profile artists. Many of your songs have had over 1 million streams. You've just played a big festival and it feels great. But also, you acknowledge that you're happy, healthy, and have good relationships. I want you to imagine that if you were to look at yourself in a mirror, you would see someone that is successful and balanced. Successful and with humility. The kind of person you want to be. And then think back to all the possible things that could have led you to this place, where you got inspiration for your ideas from, the kind of songs that you produced, the things you said yes to, not knowing if they would lead to opportunities or not, the events you went to be around the right kind of people, the platforms you used to connect your music with new audiences that hadn't heard of you before. And I want you to observe that that version of you in the past is doing it without any strings attached, without any expectations. That version of you in the past has released all expectations and traded them to be pleasantly surprised when good things come their way. And notice that that version of you was free from the trap of perfectionism, was more in flow, was more creative, was comfortable with taking risks, didn't mind going against the grain, doing something surprising. And as you think about that version of you, wasn't it inevitable that you would just get lucky one day? Because each of those things that you did was a lottery ticket to your dream life. Each of those things that you did increased the probability of luck taking you towards this destination. That version of you was willing to be strategic and move towards a vision of yourself where you were producing the music that you really enjoyed producing, and yet was able to take advantage of ways of opportunity and to ride those waves, to surf those waves of opportunity as far as they would take you, getting you closer and closer towards this dream life. If your unconscious mind is now releasing you from the prison of perfectionism and unlocking the door to an attitude that you have to be in it to win it, that whatever you do, you either win or you learn. Just let me know by nodding your head. And then find yourself back there in that wonderful lagoon, looking up at the northern lights, And I want you to tap into a feeling of gratitude. Too many people trace a dream without knowing what that dream really is. And achieving a dream doesn't mean it stops there, because the dream is simply an evolving way of evaluating that you're tapping into your potential, you're experiencing fulfillment, and you're making a difference by you being here in this world. So tap into that gratitude. Feel how good it feels to be living the life that you wanted to live, accepting that many people don't, but that also by you living the life that you want, you're able to change the emotional state of thousands and thousands of people all around the world, to make them smile perhaps when they're sad, to make them think in new and different ways, to access new ideas or new emotions, or to help them navigate the heavy emotions that they're feeling. I want you to accept that music is one of the key and most powerful ways of changing emotions. And as you imagine lying there in that lagoon, imagine all the people around the world that are experiencing emotions that perhaps are not helpful or just neutral. And what if your music makes someone bored smile? What if your music can change someone's mood immediately? And it gives you a sense of gratitude and privilege that you can do something that genuinely changes how people feel about themselves and the world they live in. And in this four-dimensional version of yourself, the Tesseract version of yourself, I want you to go forward all the way to your end of your life, this time observing you like you're someone else. And they say the biggest tragedy in life is meeting the person you could have been. If only you'd have attempted everything that was possible. But as you see the version of you towards the end of your life, you're seeing a person with a sense of pride, accomplishment, and satisfaction, that they didn't allow perfectionism to stop them in their tracks. They pursued a difficult road. They were resilient, determined, tenacious, and fearless in their approach. They knew where they were heading, and they were willing to try lots of different approaches to experience that world, that life. And if you can see that future version of you, having lived a life that was well lived, let me know by nodding your head. And then imagine returning to the present. And take that clarity as to your future, your vision, knowing that your future is proportionate to the choices that you make and to the unknown element, the variable of luck which is why your strategy takes luck into consideration. You will explore many different opportunities, tactics, and approaches, knowing that you only need just one of these approaches to be effective and to align with luck and serendipity to enable you to take your future to the very destination that you've seen. Finding yourself firmly in the present, turning your Tesseract back into a cube, and taking that version of you that exists at every moment in time back to only being here in the present, listening to my voice. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that all parts firmly in the present, but back with a new perspective on how to steer your life in the direction you desire. As I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken, feeling resourceful, optimistic, motivated, but also detached from the consequences of your creative endeavors and willing to let Lady Luck help you on your journey. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.